Welcome to WagerTalk TV, sponsored by WagerTalk.eu. Get a 70% welcome bonus up to $1,000 when using promo code WT70 when signing up. I am Kelly Stewart, joined today by Marco D'Angelo and Eric Parkala. Guys, we're going to talk a really interesting game here. Kansas City Chiefs getting 5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still no Le'Veon Bell as of shooting this video on Wednesday, but James Conner looked pretty good in that overtime thriller against Cleveland. Kansas City, 5-point dog after beating the Chargers. This one's just perplexing me. These back-to-back road games here, going from the West Coast, now going back to Kansas City, all the way back to the East Coast. I'm going to kick it to the Steelers fan first.
Yeah, I'm going to say to you first, did you say overtime thriller? There was no point scored. What was thrilling about it?
It was the worst game I have seen in a really long time. I actually had no wager on it, so I just stopped watching.
There was more action at my house, me throwing stuff at the TV. That was where the thrill was. My God, what a bad performance in the rain. Back-to-back road games for Kansas City, yeah, that's a problem, especially because of the way the trip is. They went to L.A. to play the Chargers. Now they got to go to Pittsburgh. A lot of times, if teams have back-to-back road games and are both on the East Coast or both on the West Coast, sometimes that team will stay and practice at a different facility. That's not the case. So a lot of travel for the first 2 weeks of the season for Kansas City. That's a disadvantage. And I just want to throw out, what was the final score of that game last week with the Steelers?
21-21.
What did I say the score was going to be?
21-20.
Just, damn it, I missed it by one there. Let Eric chime in on this one.
Eric, your thoughts? Patrick Mahomes looked really good against the Chargers. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought he would be good for at least a couple of interceptions. I was dead wrong on that one. But I'm not so sold on the Steelers' defense. There's a lot of factors. What are you looking at when handicapping this game?
I'm looking at the Kansas City offense and the Steelers offense, and then both defenses. I'm not sold on the Steelers defense. I'm also not sold on Kansas City's defense. I think it's not going to be the Chiefs defense we've seen, in years past. I've actually been a big fan of Patrick Mahomes since he was at Texas Tech. Even though those Texas Tech teams weren't necessarily great, but he's got a strong arm. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. There was a play last week where he kind of rolled out to the left, and the running back was open in the flat. And I thought, if this is Alex Smith, that's a check down all day. Instead, he threw it to his wide receiver and turn that play into a touchdown. So I think that Mahomes, he's a little bit more Brett Favre-ish, where he will, he's not afraid to sling the ball, and I think that'll be good considering his wide receivers.
You look at Kansas City, and it was good for him. I'm not sold yet on Mahomes. I want to see a couple more games. It was good for him that he got to enter the game with the lead before they even had the ball. They had the punt return for the quick 7 at the beginning of the game, and when you got a receiver like Tyreek Hill, my God, you're going to score everywhere. And I agree with you. The Steeler defense, I've been talking about that all summer long when we've been doing videos, Kelly. They've got problems. But you look at Pittsburgh, and everybody's saying, what happened to Big Ben last week with all the interceptions? One, they played basically in a monsoon for most of the game, and the Steelers still put up 400 and some yards of offense last week in a monsoon. They had costly mistakes that cost them scores. You look at Ben, we talked about last week, that Cleveland was going to have an advantage defensively in that game because Todd Haley was going to bring that playbook of Pittsburgh's and give it to Greg Williams. So that was an advantage to Cleveland, and one of the reasons why I was on Cleveland last week in the video. But this week we don't have that. And both teams I do think is going to go up and down the field. And you talk about defenses. San Diego put up offenses. They put up 424 yards against this Kansas City defense. Phillip Rivers doesn't have the offensive weapons that the Steelers have. I think this game's going to be played in the 30s. I'm going over the total, 52.5.
Eric, do you have a play on this one?
Yeah, I like the over as well. A lot of times when I look at overs, I like to check the weather reports. And you have that hurricane that's kind of coming up the East Coast, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. And a lot of times that rain will typically hit the, further north. But there's only a 20% chance of rain in Pittsburgh on Sunday.
All right. This video is sponsored by WagerTalk.eu. Get a 70% welcome bonus up to $1,000 using promo code WT70 when signing up.